Everyone talks about how powerful Dumbledore was, or how terrifying Voldemort became. But have you ever stopped to ask what actually makes a wizard powerful? Like, is there a magical scoreboard somewhere? Or is it all just about flashy spells? And ancient bloodlines? Trust me, there's way more to it than people think. And what you're about to discover might completely change how you see some of your favorite characters. Every wizard is born with magic. That's a fact in the wizarding world, just like everyone's born with bones. But you don't see people winning Olympic gold just for having a skeleton, right? Having magic is the starting point, not the finish line. It's like being handed a violin at birth. Some might pluck a few strings and call it a day. Others? They'll practice until they can make the room cry with a single note. Same instrument, different story. Now let's not confuse magical birthright with magical brilliance. The series makes it pretty clear. Magic isn't measured in liters or volts. There's no magical Fitbit tracking who's got more spark. That's why someone like Hermione, born to two muggles, can completely outshine Draco, who probably had a cauldron before a crib. Magic isn't something you inherit fully formed, like Dad's old wand and his questionable taste in robes. It's something you develop. Sure, there are a few rare outliers. Metamorph Magi, for example. Tonks can change her hair color with a thought, while the rest of us are stuck with Polyjuice Potion and a month's worth of preparation. But even Tonks wasn't casting Patronuses out of the womb. She went to school, studied, and joined the Order of the Phoenix, not just because she had a neat trick, but because she put that magic to use. The point is, magic levels the playing field. What comes after? That's where things get interesting. Tom Riddle didn't pop out of the orphanage nursery casting Avada Kedavra on his teddy bears. No, his so-called power didn't come from being born with more magic. It came from what he did with it. By the time he got to Hogwarts, his skills were sharp, not because he was special, but because he'd been experimenting for years. Creepy, sure. Effective? Definitely. The guy turned bullying into a full-time magical internship. That's the real kicker here. Practice isn't just preparation, it's transformation. Magical skill, like anything else, grows where you water it. Want proof? Remember when Harry struggled with the Patronus charm? He didn't just flick his wand and hope for the best. He trained over and over with Lupin guiding him until he could summon a full-blown stag, and he was only 13. That's not talent, that's grit. Tom Riddle's story is a masterclass in dangerous potential meeting relentless practice. But it's also a warning. Talent left unchecked can rot. His brilliance didn't lead to greatness. It led to obsession. The lesson? Magic rewards those who show up and put in the reps, not just those who show off. And as we'll soon see, even raw talent bows to wisdom when the stakes get high. Let's get something straight. Dumbledore didn't become the most respected wizard of his time by winging it. The man read everything, experimented constantly, and even had debates with Nicholas Flamel for fun. That's not casual weekend energy. That's scholarly obsession. His power wasn't some raw force he unleashed like a wild spell. It was refined, intentional, the product of decades spent learning, questioning, and, probably losing sleep over ancient runes. Same goes for Voldemort. Except his study sessions were less about mastering theory and more about twisting magic until it screamed. The guy disappeared for years just to learn the darkest arts imaginable. He didn't trip and fall into Horcruxes, he researched them. Riddle became powerful because he wanted to know, and he chased that knowledge harder than most chase their dreams. Unhealthy? Probably. Effective? Unfortunately, yes. Here's the twist. Both of them prove the same thing. Magical power doesn't grow in a vacuum. It thrives in the mind. The difference? One used that mind to understand, while the other used it to dominate. Knowledge, it turns out, is neutral. It's what you do with it that makes the difference. And speaking of different, wait till you see what powerful means through someone else's eyes. When Sirius Black called Barty Crouch Sr. a powerfully magical man, he wasn't talking about wand duels and dragon taming. Crouch wasn't out there casting fireworks with flair. No, his power came from his mind. The man was fluent in over 200 languages, ran a department with an iron grip, and had the kind of magical discipline that made even Death Eaters sweat. That's not flashy, it's formidable, like the magical version of a chess grandmaster who never blinks. For some, it's raw magical force, giant Patronuses and epic showdowns. For others, it's knowledge, ambition, and the kind of work ethic that makes Hogwarts professors say, maybe I should study more. Crouch may not have lit up a battlefield, But he moved through the ministry like a storm in tailored robes, quiet, deliberate, and unstoppable. So next time someone says powerful wizard, ask, what kind of powerful? Are we talking Dumbledore dueling in midair powerful, or Hermione acing every subject powerful? Because let me tell you, both can break the world open in different ways. And while we're on the subject of breaking limits, let's talk about a group of students who did exactly that. Becoming an animagus is no joke. It's dangerous, complicated, and totally illegal if you don't register, which makes it exactly the kind of challenge Sirius and James couldn't resist. But here's the part people forget. It took them 3 entire years to get it right. Not 3 afternoons, not a summer break. 3 years of failure, trial, research, and probably a few singed eyebrows. That's not just talent, that's serious commitment, with a side of chaos. Sirius wasn't just smart, he was relentless. And so was James. They didn't rely on natural gifts. They rolled up their sleeves, okay? Maybe just their robe, cuffs, and they worked hard. Compare that to Peter Pettigrew, who got dragged along like luggage with legs. He didn't become an animagus because he was brilliant. He became one because he clung to people who were. There's a big difference between being carried by talent and carrying it. This is where magical development starts to look a lot like real life. Success isn't about having the best cards, it's about playing the ones you've got like a pro. Even at 15, Sirius and James understood that. Their transformations weren't just physical, they were milestones of sheer willpower. And speaking of willpower, there's one witch who might just outshine them all, even without turning into a giant dog. Hermione Granger didn't come from a long line of spell-slinging ancestors. Her parents are dentists. The most magical thing in their house was probably fluoride. And yet, she walked into Hogwarts and immediately started outperforming kids who grew up with wands in their cribs. Why? Not because she had some secret muggle-born boost, because she studied like her life depended on it. Spoiler, sometimes it did. She wasn't just smart, she was obsessed, in the best possible way. She read Hogwarts, a history for fun. She memorized spells before they were taught. That kind of drive can't be bottled or passed down genetically. It's cultivated. When you see her facing trolls, mastering time travel, or casually fixing broken bones with a flick, you're not seeing bloodline advantage. You're seeing someone who earned her place. Let's not forget Lily Potter, another brilliant witch born to muggles. Snape called her incredibly talented in The Half-Blood Prince, and he wasn't exactly handing out compliments. These women didn't just prove they belonged, they redefined what belonging meant. And while purebloods clung to their pedigree, like it guaranteed results, Hermione and Lily showed that hard work still reigns supreme. And speaking of supremacy, it's not your ancestry that defines you. It's something far more personal. There's a reason Dumbledore's words in Chamber of Secrets hit like a magical gut punch. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Translation: you can have all the raw magical firepower in the world, but if you're using it to turn classmates into ferrets for fun, maybe pump the brakes. Power without direction is just noise, but power with purpose, that's where greatness begins. Take Harry himself. The Sorting Hat offered him Slytherin. Power, influence, ambition. He could have been the next Dark Lord's intern with a dental plan, but he chose Gryffindor. Not because it was easier, because it was right for who he wanted to become. That choice shaped everything. And it didn't come from magic, it came from character. The kind that can't be taught in a textbook, but gets forged in moments of truth. Even Voldemort had choices, and every single time, he chose control, domination, and fear. Not because he lacked options, but because he refused to consider any that didn't put him on top. That's not destiny. That's ego in a fancy cloak. And it's exactly why the most powerful wizards in the series aren't just skilled, they're wise. But even wisdom has its limits, especially when we confuse special abilities with superiority. Just because a wizard can speak to snakes doesn't mean they're destined for greatness, or evil for that matter. Parseltongue might sound impressive, but in practice, it's a glorified Google Translate for serpents. Cool at parties? Maybe. World-changing? Not really. And yet, people in the wizarding world act like it's a badge of divine favor. Spoiler alert, Harry could do it, and he didn't even know it for years. That's not power. That's a plot twist. Same goes for Metamorph Magi. Tonks could change her hair color with a blink, but did that make her the most powerful Auror alive? Nope. It just meant she saved money on Polyjuice Potion and didn't have to wait in line at the salon. Her true strength was in her bravery, her loyalty, and the fact that she stood up to Death Eaters while being 9 months pregnant. That's real power, not the party trick. The magical world is obsessed with rare abilities like their VIP passes to greatness. But when you look closer, those abilities are accessories, not core stats. They don't build a wizard. They just add flair. The true foundation of power is still effort, learning, and those pesky little things called values. And if you think heritage upgrades your magical skill set, well, wait till you meet some of the so-called elite. Let's talk about Draco Malfoy. Born into money, status, and the magical version of a country club membership, and still, the most impressive spell he ever pulled off was whining with style. Okay, maybe he was decent at nonverbal spells in Half-Blood Prince, but come on. When your biggest flex is, I fixed the vanishing cabinet, we're not exactly handing you the Elder Wand. Bloodline didn't make him exceptional. If anything, it made him entitled. And then there's Crabbe and Goyle, the poster children for magical mediocrity. These guys had the blood purity checklist completely filled out and still couldn't manage to cast a decent spell without falling over. Honestly, if there were magical participation trophies, they'd each have a shelf full of them. Their lineage didn't elevate them. It insulated them. Made them think birthright would carry them where discipline couldn't. Meanwhile, wizards like Hermione and Lily, born with no magical legacy, ran academic circles around these guys before lunch. Excellence isn't about what flows through your veins. It's about what you're willing to put into your craft. And if you think being pure blood gives you a free pass to greatness, ask yourself, why do so many of them end up working for the ministry just to push paper? And speaking of blind spots, even the greats have them. Let's not sugarcoat it. Voldemort had range. He could fly without a broom, split his soul like a Black Friday deal, and duel like a magical maniac. But even he had blind spots. Big ones. He dismissed things he couldn't control or didn't understand, like love, loyalty, and the power of, not being a sociopath. That arrogance didn't just weaken him, it destroyed him. Turns out, ignoring whole branches of magic is a pretty terrible strategy when your life literally depends on them. Dumbledore, for all his wisdom, wasn't immune either. The man kept secrets like they were Horcruxes. He underestimated people's emotions, gambled with lives, and waited way too long to share vital information with Harry. His power was vast, but so were his regrets. In the Deathly Hallows, he even admits it. I was afraid. I was more gifted than the others. I had power, but I was not wise. And that right there says it all. Power doesn't make you perfect. It makes you vulnerable to thinking you are. Whether it's Voldemort dismissing love or Dumbledore delaying the truth, even the most powerful can fall prey to their own egos, fears, or overconfidence. And if the titans of the wizarding world can stumble, what does that say about how we define greatness in magic or in life? Let's be real. If magical power was just about heritage, half of Hogwarts would be legends and the other half, well, background characters. But time and time again, the series shows us that true power isn't born, it's built. So here's the question. What do you think defines a great wizard? Is it how much magic they have, or what they choose to do with it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd seriously love to hear your take. Do you agree with Dumbledore's view? Or do you think the wizarding world's measuring stick needs a serious upgrade? If this kind of deep dive into the magic behind the magic got you thinking, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There's a whole lot more to uncover in the wizarding world. And hey, if you want to see some fan theories that completely fooled the fandom, you need to check out the next video. These Harry Potter fan theories fooled everyone. Trust me, it'll blow your mind in the best way. Until the next video.